Ladies and gentlemen, Bowmaster619 here. Welcome to another car vlog. Man, I did not realize the sun was going to be right there. I apologize. Not to worry, we'll be changing areas soon enough, and that'll go away. So, as the title of today's live stream suggests, I'm going to give you guys a brief little history lesson on a couple of different subjects, as well as, I suppose you could call it a little bit of a physics lesson as well. Even though I don't necessarily completely understand the physics and mathematics behind it, but nonetheless, I digress. The first little tidbit of information comes from a question that I'm going to ask you, the viewers. How many of you enjoy drinking Fanta? I can assume that at least most of you out there have probably at least tried it. Whether or not you actually enjoy it or not is another thing, but we'll get to that in a moment. The next question is, how many of you know where Fanta actually came from? Hello, yeah, it's me. Nice to see ya. Turns out that Fanta actually originated in Nazi Germany. Bet a lot of because of such a long time, in the 1930s and 1940s, they had distribution out in Germany. For the area. In Germany. Oh, you lived in Germany. That's cool. Seems like a really cool place. I honestly would like to take a vacation there sometime. But anyway, during World War II, because of the fact that there were so many tensions were high, obviously, for certain reasons, Coke decided to cut off distribution to Germany during the war. And essentially, all that meant was they weren't shipping them the Coca-Cola syrup anymore. So, the Germans still had a massive plant used to make soda that they didn't have ingredients for anymore. So they all banded together and said, you know what? We got a factory here, we got people that need jobs, and we need the money coming in. What can we do? So they threw together whatever ingredients they happened to have on hand, and from it, they created Fanta. And originally, it was more of an apple-orange type of soda, from what I understand. And recently, in Germany, they actually did a brief release of Fanta Classica. That probably sounded more Mexican than German, I apologize, but, you know, whatever. Anyway, for a very short time frame, they actually released Fanta Classica again. But going back in time, once the war was actually over with, Coca-Cola reestablished commerce with the German location and said, hey, how you guys doing? What's been going on since the war? It's been a while. Said, well, we did keep up distribution, just not. Here's your share of the profits that we've made over the last few years, and we would like to reestablish commerce, and if you're interested, we would like to be able to distribute this soda around Europe even further with your help. So Coca-Cola tried it, and they agreed, and they went ahead and started doing mass distribution around Europe, and it became extremely popular. Then it eventually made its way over to America and became what we know of as Fanta today, with its extremely sweet taste and mass multitude of flavors. And it has become a worldwide renowned phenomenon, pretty much. But for those of you that didn't know it, yes, Fanta actually originated in Nazi Germany. Think about that the next time you crack open a Fanta. Now, the next little bit of history that I would like to let you know about doesn't have to do with World War II this time. It actually has to do with the Vietnam War. And this is just an interesting little tidbit that I happen to have found on YouTube a number of years ago, actually. And it's a video that I still enjoy watching just because I love watching the mechanical differences between the way these two different projectiles function. And that is essentially the difference between the bow and arrow and modern firearms. And the reason I bring this up is because in Vietnam, there was actually a specialized platoon that was sanctioned to use bows and arrows. At that time, because the compound wasn't nearly as popular as it is now, I'm going to need to do a little more research on time frames, because I'm pretty sure the compound was around, but it wasn't nearly as popular yet. So this group was sanctioned to use recurve bows, which is probably better in the jungles anyway, simply because I seriously doubt if they would have had bow presses and such to perform maintenance on compounds in the jungles of Vietnam. But either way, there was a couple of groups that was specially formed for using the bow. And they were used in combat and were fairly effective. The advantage to having bows over, of course, the standard M16, which, if I remember correctly, they did still have some of the standardized weapons of the military at the time, but they were specialized for use with the bow and arrow. And I just had a brain for it. The advantage to using the bow and arrow was the fact that it was a silent killer. And because of the fact that you could attach different kinds of arrowheads to it, it made it extremely versatile for warfare. You know, I've said for a long time that the bow and arrow, in my opinion, is one of the most versatile of all projectile tools in the world. Simply because with today's technology, you can increase the poundage of your bow a lot of times simply by changing out the limbs, as well as you can change what exactly it is you're hunting for simply by changing out the arrowheads. So you can literally hunt anything that walks on this earth with a bow and arrow. But going back to Vietnam, and specifically to the training video that I'm talking about, I don't remember the exact name, but I believe it's bow and arrow versus M1 Garand or something to that effect. Again, you'll have to look it up. I honestly can't remember it. I'm going to look it up when I'm done with this live stream, and I will go ahead and post that onto my Facebook page, so that those who are interested can go ahead and view it. But essentially what they do is they have a brief introduction video talking about the differences between the bow and modern technology in regards to firearms. And they even have a demonstration to go with it. They set up a box that is full of dirt with 2 extra pieces of either cardboard or wood set into it, so that you can tell just how far the ammunition is actually penetrating. The 45, and I'm talking as in the Colt 1911, the 45 ACP only goes into the first layer of dirt. The 30 carbine does a little bit better, but not much. And then the 30-06 barely gets through the first inner wall of medium. You know, they all go through the first wall, obviously, but get stopped by the dirt. But the M16, or not M16, M1 Garand! God, there are too many M1s in the military! Only made it through the first inner cardboard piece, while the arrow penetrated through all of it and got stopped about halfway through. And the reasoning for that is simply enough because of the difference in mechanics of the projectiles. You know, the arrow is meant and is designed, because of its shape and its makeup, to be a very deep penetrator. You know, that's why even when you're using primitive archery supplies, you know, simple wooden self-bows with river cane arrows, or, you know, whatever natural material you want to use, and stone heads, you can still see full pass-throughs even when you're using something like that. And that's because that's the way the arrow is designed. It's designed to go through as much as possible to create as much bleeding as possible, because that's how arrows kill, is through hemorrhaging. blood loss. Whereas with a bullet, especially with modern boat tail rounds, they're designed more so to create shock in the body.